Hi, in this talk we'll be talking about the Adoration of the Mystic Lamb, a painting by Jan van Eyck, which is a painting from the early 15th century. And it's a triptych with 12 panels on the inside depicting Adam and Eve on either side, and then in the middle, the Virgin Mary, God and John the Baptist, with choirs on either side of them. And at the bottom we see from left to right the just judges, the Knights of Christ, the Adoration of the Lamb, hermits and pilgrims. And it's of course the Adoration of the Lamb, that panel which gives it this triptych its name. Closed, this is what it looks like, and you have to remember on most days this would have been the case if you entered the church. Only on feast days would this triptych be opened. And at the top we see the prophets and sibyls, and then in the middle the Annunciation, and at the bottom in the middle St. John the Baptist and John the Evangelist. Those were the patron saint of the St. Bartholomew Church, on which this painting hangs. And then on either end of them, the donors of this painting, so the patrons who paid for this painting to be done, Jodokus Veit and his wife Elizabeth. Originally it hung in a side chapel on the right-hand side of the St. Bartholomew, and as you can see, that side chapel had a window on the right-hand side, so light coming from the right-hand side, which is why in the painting all the shadows fall on the left. In fact, there's a really interesting detail in one of the panels of the painting, and that is the brooch of one of the angels singing in the choir, because in her brooch we see a reflection of that window. It's of course now in a completely different chapel if you go and see it, but still in the St. Bartholomew Church in Ghent, which in fact is Ghent's earliest settlement, so very early in Old Church. Ghent also shown in this triptych. Jan van Eyck painted some of the details of the city. If you zoom in, really wonderful, so you can tell nothing's really changed. Now, Jan van Eyck is part of that early Netherlandish art, the 15th, 16th century, or the Northern Renaissance, which coincides with the Italian Renaissance or early Renaissance, but it's quite different in look, and we tend to refer to it as the International Gothic style. They tend to be religious scenes or small portraits, very much conveying the experience of everyday life, which is of course why we get to see those windows into the city of Ghent and so on, with these trompe-l'oeil elements where it looks as if we're looking at real life representations. And if you look at one of the panels on the right hand side, you see the angel, or you see the Virgin Mary, but in the background we see pots and pans, very realistic to contemporary audiences. Very funny angular folds. That is a giveaway that you're looking at early Netherlandish art with these vibrant colours, very high horizon to get all these details in. Now, this triptych has been literally taken apart, stolen, split, burned, vandalised, cropped, pawned, hidden and shipped across continents. Very much in demand over many centuries, and you'll have to pause this video to see all the things that happened to it. Most recently, there's been a big restoration done to the triptych, and one of the things that people were rather surprised by is to see that the mystic lamb in fact doesn't look like a lamb at all. On the bottom of your screen you see on the left hand side what it used to look like before the restoration, very much like a lamb with the ears on the side and these eyes on the side. But then after restoration we see the eyes at the front of the face of this lamb and the ears more where we have ears, and that is of course to make it look more human, as this is a reference to Christ. We know that it was painted by Jan van Eyck, but it was probably started by his brother Hubert. And there's a reference to that in on the frame where Jan references his brother. There's also a rather clever reference to the year in which this painting was made, with this little puzzle or a chronogram where you see the letters in different colours and you have to add them up. Now, this is really what this painting is all about. It's different layers, and we need to properly look because it's one big optical illusion with observations and reproductions of complex behaviors of light, how it comes off, how it reflects off surfaces, but also how it's absorbed by certain surfaces and how it's interrupted. And Jan van Eyck is master at that. It really is an early scientific way of observing the world. You see all these types of flowers, herbs and trees. We can even spot the moon in this painting. Jan van Eyck went through a great effort to represent life as much as he knew it and he saw it. Chock-a-block full of symbolism, we've got no time to go into that, but that too makes for endless looking. Now, how was he able to put in all the details? Because he painted in oil. Was he the inventor of it? No, he wasn't. But he made the paint more manageable, and therefore he could make these tiny little details looking so realistically. Want to hear the longer version? Head to artisttalkalong.com and there will be loads of those.